Ecclesiastes 3:1, biblical passage here cited in the Wall Street Journal. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. That is noted in this piece in the Wall Street Journal, headlined here. Conservative young women flip the script. Kids first, then career. They note here, for generations of women, the logic has seemed airtight. Focus on a career in your 20s and start worrying about a family once you are established in a job. That mindset has catapulted women into higher earning positions and into traditionally male-dominated fields. The share of women in their prime working years who are in the workforce is around a record high, and women are having babies later if they have them at all. The answer to fertility constraints, they're told, is egg freezing. They then go on to highlight a lady named Isabel Brown. She's 28 years old. She didn't want to wait. She married last year, had a baby this year. She's now building her career as a conservative activist, hosting a podcast for the Daily Wire, that's Ben Shapiro's company, and speaking on college campuses as a representative for Turning Point USA, which is the youth organization that Charlie Kirk co-founded. Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, now leads the organization and is amplifying a message, especially one that resonates for young conservative women. Family is central, children come first. And at a time when people like to rag on younger generations and question the motivations of younger generations and say, younger Americans are all leaning a certain way, there are certain stories that should be amplified, should be told, and should be bragged about. And that's what's happening right now in this country. And the Wall Street Journal had a headline story on it yesterday. Now, what's interesting is how the two political parties, and depending on how you identify, they've completely split on this issue. So the Wall Street Journal goes on to note that as recently as 15 years ago, self-described conservatives and liberal women between 18 and 35 were having kids at about the same rate. But as recently as last year, 2024, 75% of liberal women in the 18 to 35 age range were childless, compared with only 40% of conservatives. That's a 35-point difference. 15 years ago, it was a 5-point difference. The article goes on to note, liberals are leaning hard into being dinks. What's a dink?
Double income, no kids.
There you go. Being childless or having fewer kids. And it's being very much a choice. Whereas for conservatives, having kids is still very much a part of what it means to be a whole person. Having kids does not preclude workforce participation, and plenty of liberals are still putting a priority on parenthood. But as birth and marriage rates fall, some conservatives are doubling down on the importance of starting a family. So this is an amazing split here. If we end up in a world, or at least in a country here, where the only people having kids by and large are those who are conservative in nature, what does that mean for the future of our political parties? That's potentially a very good sign, unless the left doubles down on using the education system in this country to try to indoctrinate. And less so K through 12, more so universities and higher education, and also through things like immigration policy, where they try to get people in here and then buy their votes. That's really their best bet. I mean, if you were someone who wanted to see liberalism win for generations to come, then you would be freaking out over this story in the Wall Street Journal. You would be looking at this data and you would be sounding the alarm bells, being like, this is not good. We are in trouble. Conservatives are having kids at like twice the rate we are. What do we do? But they're not doing it. In part because I think that they believe that they own the institutions in this country and they can at least peel off a certain percentage of people over their formative years to the point where they can get them under their political umbrella. And that's why I think they're not freaking out. But it goes to show you just how different these two political parties are, especially with young people. I think less so as you go older into the generations and the demographics, but in young people, that divide between conservatives and liberals and what you value in life and what you want out of life, there's a larger gap there with Gen Z than there is with millennials, than there is with Gen X, than there is with baby boomers. And that's what's happening right now in real time. Mike is in Olathe on KCMO. Good morning, Mike. Go ahead.
Hey, when you brought this up, I thought it's interesting because about 10 or 12 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, Mark Stein, who we used to see a lot. I haven't seen him in a long time. Steyn, used to be on Tucker, substitute for Rush, wrote 2 books. One was America Alone, and the next one, the follow-up, was After America. And what he talked about was people are not having kids, where our country cannot survive unless we have children. Muslims are having them. Hispanics are having them. The great part of what you just said is, and I think it's also spiritual, people going to church less, the familial thing and career first and all the things, colleges and whatever our lines have been for the last 25, 30 years, that nuclear family has been minimized. So, but if those are the people that are having children, and in Europe they're actually paying people to have kids, and they were doing this 10 and 20 years ago because not enough people were, we can't survive unless people do have children. So if it's conservatives that are turning the tide again, God bless us everyone, as Tiny Tim would say, because maybe there's a chance because those types of people will, but we're still way behind the curve because of what's been happening for the last 20 years.
Well, we are. You're right about that, Mike. We are way behind the curve. Thanks for the call. But also, you do have people that affiliate and associate with one political party who are doing their job. You have people who associate with a different political party who aren't doing any of it and don't believe in it. And you hear it all the time. Why would I have kids? Climate change. Why would I have kids? Trump's in the White House. Orange man bad. Like, there's always a reason for why you can't. Trust me, we've all been there, even if you have kids. Like, I've got 3 little ones. There's always a reason to delay it. There's always the reason to not have them. There's always a reason to be like, the house isn't big enough. Do I make enough money? As someone, and I'm forgetting who told me this, have one more kid than you think you can afford is how it was once described to me. I'm not sure if we've done that, but, either way, it's a good line. I like it. The point is there's always a reason why you can't have that extra child or have any. And if you're going to go through life that way, you're never going to do it. And these young conservative women are apparently leading the way in the podcast space in particular. Isabel Brown is who this story is about in the Wall Street Journal. It's a great piece.